And you can see they're all wrapped really well in bubble wrap so they don't get broke. And here's our little penguin that everyone got. So the first thing you want to do is maybe take a bigger brush and just brush him off to make sure there's no dust on him. And we're basically going to just paint him out. We'll do a little dry brushing on the beak and on the feet. And I'm going to use the starter brush, round nylon brushes. And then I have a liner brush, the Majestic 5.0 liner to do his eyes with. So I'm using my brushes that we have online at Brenda's Brushstrokes and Bisque.com. So I just have a little bit of foil and I'll put my paint on there. And that's easier. I just roll that up then and throw it away at the end of the night instead of scraping on a tile to clean it. I'll use some paper towels just to wipe my hands on, wipe the brushes on. And I have some water to wash out the brushes. Now I did have a question of how do you hold your brushes, because we do have lots of beginners tonight. And I just want to say hello to everyone else too. I didn't want to forget anybody. So welcome everyone, and I hope you enjoy tonight. Comment on the feed on Facebook, and we will try to, Courtney and I, my daughter, will try to watch your posts as you post them and have any questions or suggestions and comments. So when you're holding your brush, you want to hold it just like you hold a pencil, although I hold it more towards the bottom so I have control of my bristles instead of way up here where you wouldn't have control of your bristles. So just kind of hold it like you have a pencil. So that's my tip for how to hold your brushes. So we're going to start by painting him the white area white. And we're not going to actually line it out exactly because that'll take extra time. And when we come back with the black, that's when we will line it. And then that just saves time. We're using the white because it's the lighter color. You want to usually start with, in this case, with the lighter color and then come back and cover it up with the darker color. Now with dry brushing, you usually start with a base coated black, dark brown, or dark blue piece, and you start with your dark colors and work to your light colors. So on this is more of just a paint out project. You're going to start with your light colors. So I'm going to start with my white, and I just have I'm using Mayco's tonight, but usually I have the Doc Holliday white. So I'm just going to shake that up a little bit, get a pretty good pile of it, go into the paint and kind of work it into the brush. And I'll move this over so you guys can see that. I'm just working it in there a little bit and loading it up. And I'm going to put him here so you guys can see him as well. Hopefully that helps. So I'm just going to paint out my white areas. And I can see that there's an indent where the white is on his little hands. So that's where I'm going to paint the white inside that. And make sure to get right out to where the black will cover it up. The same with the body area here. We're going to do that. So I'm just going to go on there and then just brush back and forth and brush that out so it's nice and smooth and you don't have rivers and ridges. So I hope everyone had a really good week this week. It's kind of hot here. So again, I'm just brushing this out. And so that whole little white area, even onto the black area, is covered, but that's okay because we're going to cover that up with white. So now I'm going to come over here to his other hand and do the same thing. So we're just going to brush this out. We've actually had heat index warnings this week because it's been so warm and humid here. So I'm just brushing the white out, getting a nice coat, nice and smooth. Now with the ceramic paints, they actually like self-level themselves, and like you get rid of the brush marks by the time it dries, which is that's really a big advantage of using the ceramic made paints. So there he is. He's got his little paws brushed out. So I'm wondering, is anyone actually painting along with us tonight? So we're just going to come now to his face and paint out the white on his face. Just brush it out nice. And I'll try to keep him turned right side so you guys can see him better. So I'm just brushing that out. And even if it gets onto this black part, you want to brush that out too so you don't have ridges. And I'll just go right up to his nose and cover up his eyes with the white because we can paint over that with the black. We'll paint over the beak with the rust later. So we just want to get a nice coat on there and get it brushed out nice and smooth. He actually paints up pretty quick. This is not the only way to do him. You could do it other ways too. You could base coat it and dry brush it. But this is just one way that I do him. So now I'm going to brush out the bottom part here. So let's see, we got Marie watching. Hello, Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Jason, hi. Belinda, hi. So here we go. And Courtney is working on putting all the names for our drawing to do our little kickoff today of our painting of our penguin. So if you put your name down and tagged your friend and I think shared it, your name went into the drawing that we will do at the end of the show tonight, and you will each get a free penguin, and we will cover the cost of the penguin and the shipping. It's just our little celebration of our kickoff of our first painting of our first Bisque box piece.
The winner.
Oh, the winner gets the free penguin. The winner and their friend. Did I say something wrong? Oh, Courtney thinks I said everybody gets the free penguin. No, we have a drawing, and everybody that put their name and tagged their friend, all those names are going into a drawing, and that person and their friend will get a penguin. So 2 penguins, 1 for each of you. So that was just like our little thank you and our little kickoff for our Brenda's Bisque box and painting on Thursday nights, and painting what's in the Bisque boxes. Okay, so I'm actually going to go onto the bottom because you always want to paint your bottom also. So I'm going to just kind of look where the white would go on the bottom and carry it over to the bottom. And also go inside that ridge because you want that to look finished also. And it doesn't have to be exact because that darker color is going to cover up whatever went over. So this one's kind of a quick, but the next coat's colors will take maybe a little longer because we have to be a little more careful. So there he is. He's all brushed out. And then you want to go back and look and make sure everything's covered up good. You can add a little more if you don't think he's covered up enough. He looks pretty good. Just has a nice white coat, and you can see there's no brush marks. That the ceramic paint just levels itself out and really does a nice job. And you have to brush it out so you don't have rivers and ridges and puddles. But there he is. He's all painted his little white areas. So Courtney, Belinda says, is sharing the same as tagging? Oh, sorry, Courtney, you already got your answered. So now I'm going to wash my brush out in my water. And normally if I have extra brushes, I save a set of brushes just for the white. I only have the 1 set of these, so I'm going to paint the black next. And we're also going to do his little, we'll do his little feet in rust and his little beak in rust. But we'll do the black next on his body. So I'm going to shake it up. It's just Doc Holliday Black. He goes pretty quick. So now I'm going to take and paint my rust. And it doesn't matter where you start. The one thing you want to do is anchor down your piece, whether you're holding it. Usually I hold stuff in my lap, but I can't do that for recording, so I'm holding on the table. So he's anchored in my hand. Then I'm going to anchor, I have the hold of the brush at the bottom so I have good control. And I'm also going to anchor this hand probably right on him. And I'm going to just start and draw, paint along the line where the white and the black meets. And if you look at your penguin, there's a little indent in there, and that's where you want to come, is right up to that little indent. So I'm just going to go slow and drag it right along there. And now I lifted it up, and I'm going to come back to about halfway, because when I got to the end I was coming off too far. So now I'm going to go back to the middle where it's in the right area and draw that paintbrush again back to the depth that I want it to be. So that's better. And then you can come back, like that's a little crooked right there, so I'm going to see if I can straighten that out. And now I'm going to brush out this paint so there's no ridges there. So now I'm going to grab my paint again, and I'm just putting it in the edge of the paint and drawing it out towards me. It just kind of loads it that way. You can also pull it towards you. That's usually, I think, how I do it. So I'll just go down further here, and I'm going to get right on that edge where the black and the white meet. I'm resting this finger on my penguin, which sturdies it up, and then I'm pulling it towards me. And that's how you can get your nice straight line. Now I'm going to go back and just touch that up a little bit so it's just another nice straight line. Now I'm going to come and brush out that edge of that paint there. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little more paint, come down to where his feet meet the white, and try to get a nice point. If some of the black goes on to the foot, that's okay, that'll cover up with the rust. I'm just going to touch the tip of the paint, and again my finger's resting on him, and draw it towards me, and then get that nice straight line there again and just join them up. And if they're off a little, you can go back and touch it up. So now I'm going to paint this out, make sure there's no rough spots there. Grab some more. Now I'm going to come along his foot about where I think the rust and the black would meet up. And just draw that towards me too. And then paint that out a little bit. Just paint out your paint so you don't have ridges. Okay, so that's how he's started there. So now I actually have to turn him. So when you're painting, you have to turn him so you can do what you need to do. So I guess I like drawing the paint towards me. So I want to draw along his white edge here. And I can see that there's a little, you can see that the white, like the white would end right there. So I want that black to come right along there. So that's what I'm going to do next. Grab my black. Again, I'm resting on here. You want to make sure that hand is clean when you're doing that, or you'll have black paint on there. I'm just going to lay it above where I want the line to be, and then just draw it right along there. You just kind of line it up, and then go right on past it. And now I'll brush that out and paint this out in the middle. And you can go back and forth, or you can just go in one direction as long as you're painting it out so you don't have those ridges in there. And you want to be careful because you don't want to get the white or the black on your white now. Okay, so that's where he's, that little part's done there. So now I'll probably turn him again, and now I'm going to come back to where his head is, and we're going to outline his head. Just putting that paint in there, and there's not a whole lot of paint on there. I'm just laying it in there and pulling it towards me, and it just kind of loads it up. So Anne says hi. Hi, Anne. Okay, so now this little area where his neck is kind of a rounded area. So I'm going to have to start back a little bit so that I can round that out, because right now it's kind of a jagged edge. So again, I'm resting this hand, and he's resting in there, and I'm going to rest this hand on here so that it's solid, and you may have to move your fingers. Like, it looks like I want this finger on here. It's like tucked in between these two fingers, and that's how I'm securing that hand so it's solid. So I'm going back a little bit, and I can see the tip of my brush, and now I rounded out that corner, and I'm bringing it up around along his face. I'm just going to bring it right off. So I'll come back and brush this out so I don't have any ridges. Grab some paint, turn him a little bit, come back, and I'm going to start about a 1/4 inch back, and I'll start off a little bit, and then I can draw over into where my line is so that I can pick it up where I left off without making a sharp mark that, oh, that's where she started. But now, see, I do have a jag there, so I'm going to have to come back, and I'm going to start further back and just work that brush up little by little till it lines up with that, and I can straighten that out. So now that's all nice and straight now. So now I'm going to brush this out a little bit. I grabbed a little paint just to get a nice edge along here, because then once I start painting the big area, I don't have to be quite as careful as I'm being right now. So just get them white covered up. So just grab some black, turn him a little more, anchor this hand, start back a little bit, and a little bit up from your line, and then as you go, work towards the face to line up your paint with the line that's already there, and then you can keep going. So there we go. And now here you want to stop. I usually stop right before that, and then I'll come from the other direction. I'm just going to grab a little paint, put the very tip into that point, and draw back the other way to get that nice sharp point. And now I can fill that in, grab a little paint, line my point of my brush up with that point on his head, and then draw it towards me. And there he's got that nice point, and you don't have to go back and fix it. But if you do, that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I've done this for years. So, but that's just, I guess, my little tip on how I do it. So now we're just going to turn him a little more. We got to watch that this is dry so I don't get wet paint all over. Grabbed my paint, and again I'm going to come back a little further than what my ending line is so I can line it up by the time I get there. It's kind of like when you're merging onto the highway from the ramps. You start back here, slowly get over into that lane, and then you got it lined up, and then you just keep right on going until you think your brush is out of paint. Now that's a little crooked there, so I'm just going to go back a little further and come back and try to get that little jag out of there. So there it is. And then we'll add a little more here so we don't have to be quite so careful when we're painting the bigger area. So there he goes. Grab a little paint. Hi, Amanda. So here we go. We're going to, again, start back on that edge, a little bit away from the white, and then work our way to the white. And I'm not going to go right to the point of the center because I'll probably work just like I did the other one. So I'm going to go into the point and then come out. And then line that up with the other where I left off the last time. And then brush that out a little bit. And then you can always come back and straighten your lines out if you think it's not quite right. So grab some white. So now I'm already in that corner, that ditch, but I want to come back about 1/8 of an inch and then get that curve in there so it's a nice curve that's coming out. There we go, just like that. And then you can brush this out. Now it looks like it needs to go up a little more right there, so I'm just going to go back in and bring it down just a little bit. So there. Now we can add a little more in here so we don't have to be so careful when we're filling in the big area. Grabbing some paint, Again, I'm just going to come back about 1/4 of an inch onto the black, not right on the white, but on the black, and merge over into the white where my paint left off so that they match up with each other right there. And then just go as far as your hand or paint will go, and then lift it up. So now I have a little white spot there that I don't like. I'm going to come back further and just kind of line that up and cover that up, just because I missed it a little bit there. See, it's covered right up. So there we go. Fill this in a little more. So now we're back to this little point, excuse me, where we have to match up the foot to the black. So I got my paint on my point, and I'm going to go to the point where his foot and white meet, and then just draw it back to where I left off. Now that's kind of jagged, so I'm going to have to go back and fix that, because my hand's not resting on there the way it should be. Okay, so we're going to fix that up, and we're just going to do the same thing that we just did. It's just that I have to anchor this hand and anchor this hand better. So just kind of go right where I was and just pull it again, but pull it straighter. So you can go back and fix things. So there you go. So now we're going to do the same thing and come along his foot like we did with the other foot. And again, that's not quite, wasn't quite the way I needed him in my hand. So you have to turn him to get him the way you want him, so he's secure. And that you can secure this hand too. And I have a hair in there that I don't like. Okay. So now I'm going to start on there, just start back in that corner again. And draw it right along the top of that foot. Maybe one more time. There. Am I out of line, Courtney? So now I'm just going to brush this out a little bit and fill it in. Just brush that out so it's not heavy there. So now, because I want to pull that towards me across his little paddle there, his paw, I gotta turn it. So I'm going to rest this on here and just line it up, like start over here, and that way you can move over to where you need it lined up and then pull it across. So I'm going to grab a little more paint, start before it, and pull it, get it where you want it lined up, and then you can pull it right across it. So that gives you that nice straight line by doing that. Because you start before it, and that way you can pull it over and merge over so it's where you want it, where it needs to be. So I'm just going to brush that out a little bit. So now his little face is all outlined. And let's see. We can do his little, around his little paws again. So now again, I'm going to try to anchor him. A lot of times I'll like hold him right up against my stomach to do that, my body. I'm going to try to just do it on here. So again, I'm going to start into the black and then just pull it over. And you can turn this hand too and keep this one solid. So if that works for you, you don't have to just move the brush. You can turn the piece. So I'm going to anchor my hand on him and just pull right up to it, and then work my way off, and then I'll come back and line it up again. I'm going to brush this out so there's no ridges. Grab some black, turn him a little bit, start before you ended, bring your brush to the end, and kind of come right around your little corner if you can. And then we'll come back and add this on. So now he's a little tricky here because I want to pull this way, but I can't really pull it that way. But I don't know. I guess we'll do it this way and see how far I get. So I'm just putting it on before, merging it over, pulling it towards me, And if it feels good, which it does, I'm going to just keep right going right and join the two up and then brush that out. So there, that's how his little paw gets painted out, or trimmed out I should say. So now I'm just going to brush that out so there isn't a big piece of it. You want to be careful so you don't get your white black. So these aren't big strokes, these are just little strokes, and it's brushing out the paint carefully so you don't get the black on the white. So I'm going to grab a little black and I'm going to come over to this paw and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to start on the black and draw it towards that paw line that I want it, and it just goes right in there and draw it right around there. So now I'll come back and brush this out. Grab some black. Hi Marge, well welcome. Oh, and you're Marie's sister and you paint together. Well, that's great. Glad you guys get to paint together. Excuse me. So now I'm going to come back. I'm going to anchor this hand on here again. Start before the ending. That way you can work it over. And just draw right in there, a nice straight line. I usually try to keep going and do it in one pull, but you don't have to. And you can go from the, now I don't like the way that's lined up there, so I'm actually going to bring it down here, see if I can match it up a little better. Maybe I just need more paint. We'll see if we can straighten that out so it's more, that's more than I wanted, but that's okay. I'll come from this way and kind of round it out, so it isn't such a square looking corner. So now we're just going to brush this out. And you got to be, and see I'm resting this finger on here, which makes that whole hand stable. So you can control your brush. We're just going to brush it out. So now all that white is outlined, but now I still don't like this, so I'm going to come back again. And I might fix that up with the white because I still don't like it. I'm going to brush out my paint, let it dry, and probably touch that up with the white. So now we still need to finish trimming out his little feet. So a lot of times I'll hold little pieces like this. I'm just sticking my finger inside there. And now he's not going nowhere because this thumb is holding him and this finger is holding him. So I have paint in my brush. I'm going to start back again before I left off and come down around his little foot. And I'm going to go right to the edge so that I can paint the bottom, because we want the bottoms painted too. So there, he's got a nice little foot outlined. And then you just kind of want to imagine where that line would have went on the bottom. And actually I'm going to do that last because I want to do this foot first so I don't get black all over. And sometimes you end up turning them and turning them. So this one I'm actually going to come from the bottom this way, but that's okay because I like to pull it towards me the way it looks. So get a hold of my brush, get a little paint. Now I'm sticking his paw right into my hand because that's what's going to steady this up then. So I'm starting like kind of on the bottom there, bring it up to the foot, and then just bring it around the top and line them up. So there, he's lined up. So now we can put some more black in there. Gonna brush that out. Oh, and hi Rachel. I think you'll like the animals, they're really cute. And I'm gonna touch the bottom up here now. So I'm just gonna bring my black over there so that we can make sure our bottoms look finished. So I'm just gonna bring that to there, to the foot line. And you want this straight too, because you want it to look nice underneath there. Grab some more. And we'll do the same on the other side here. And this don't have to be exact, but you still want it to look nice. Because there's no actual foot line there, but you can kind of imagine where it would go. And then we're going to go on the inside and get that little edge painted black. And now we can paint the rest of this black. And now we don't have to be quite as careful, but we don't want to be spattering black all over either. You just grab a little paint with your brush and paint it out. Get all your white spots. So now I'm just going to hold him again there. Got my finger on the front, and now we can actually paint this black out because we have it all trimmed out. Just like when you paint your house and you trim out your windows and your doors, we trimmed him out. So now we're just going to paint him out. And we just want to be careful because, like I said, I don't want splatters all over that you have to keep going back and fixing. We're just painting him out, get a nice coat of black on him. And this is, the Doc Holliday paint is really nice. You get rid of the, like when this dries, you can see like there's no brush marks there. It just like self-levels itself. And your ceramic paints will do that compared to the cheaper box store paints. That's what they're made for this. So now I can see there's a little white spot right in his corner, so I want to get that touched up. I'll just kind of get the brush in there a little bit. So I'm just going to paint him out. And then you always want to go back and look where you painted before to see if there's any white spots. Now here I have a little spot, so I want to brush that out so I don't have a actual dot there. We're just painting him out. I lost my screen, Courtney. We're just painting him away. This would be a good project for kids too. It's simple and easy to start with. So I have to grab a little more black here. And then I have to change how I'm holding him so I can turn him. Thank you. I'm just painting it out good so it's nice and smooth, getting up to where my trim out was. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing well enough. So Joanne Ebel says, can you use a bigger brush when you do that? Well, you can, but you might be fixing more things than not by using a bigger one. But you can try it. I won't say that you can't. Especially in this little area here, you wouldn't want to be using a big brush because you wouldn't have no place for it to go. You'd have paint, the wrong color paint on the area, on the wrong area. I hope that answered your question, Joannie. Joannie is my sister who doesn't paint. Maybe we'll get her painting one day. So this is a size 5 brush that I'm using. It's about a medium size brush. I mean, once you have it trimmed out, you could switch to a bigger brush. Usually when I'm painting these, I'm doing about a dozen of them, so I will trim. Now see, I just messed that up, but we'll fix it. I will trim them all out with a brush about this size, and then you can go back and use a bigger brush. I've done that, but for doing just one, I kind of hate to waste the paint that's in the brush just to switch to a bigger brush once it's trimmed out. And it doesn't take that much longer to paint him out. Just want to paint that out because that was kind of thick there. I'm going to turn him and paint this area. I want to be kind of careful here so I don't want to have to trim that again like I did with the foot, the arm. Just want to brush this out so there's no puddles. And now I'm going to look at him again to see that I got all my black, which I do, except for right there. Let's get a little more paint and paint it out. My bottom looks good. Now I do have that black on there, but we're going to let that dry good before I touch that so it doesn't make a gray mess. So now I'm going to wash out my brush. So Joanne says, when you do a bigger area, can you use a bigger brush? Sure, you sure can. These are kind of little pieces, so I kind of stick with the littler brushes. So now we have the feet and the beak to do. And we're going to do that in the Doc Holliday DH28 Rust. And I believe Courtney will put a list with the video. Everyone that had got the Bisque box, there was a list in there of what we had. So this won't take a whole lot of rust. And let's see, I'm going to switch, actually, because this is such a smaller area, I'm going to switch to my size 3. It's just a little bit smaller, especially for his beak on his face. So I'm just going to work my paint into my brush and then draw through it and kind of twirl it so I get a point, because I do have this little area on here. And again, I'm just going to rest him on the table, rest my hand on him, and I want to outline his little face, his little beak. I just get it in there, draw it around until I can't see, paint that out so there's no rough spots, grab some rust, go into this corner, and I'm probably going to drag it down to match where I left off. And then just paint that out. Grab a little paint. Now I'm going to have to tip him up. And I'll start just past the center of his nose and come towards me. If I start right at the center and don't make it quite right, it's like that's going to be really obvious. So I'll start just past center, because if I start on the center and it's not right, that's going to really draw your eye to that. So we're just going to start past center and come right over past center when I'm stroking it. And then meet this one up. And now I'll brush this out quick. And now it didn't meet up quite. I ran out of paint, so I'm just going to go into my corner there and kind of touch that up just a little bit and meet them up. And then I can dip my brush in there and brush that out. Get a little more paint. Brush that out. And you can see that my left hand is holding the penguin and my right hand is actually resting on the penguin. You really have to secure that painting hand to get nice straight lines. So I'm going to turn him again, and I'm going to go into my corner of his mouth and draw it towards the top. And if it doesn't seem right, which it didn't, then I'm going to go back and try to get back in there again. So I'm just going to join these up. There's a little dip right there. So straighten that out. So now my top and my bottom are not matching up, so I need to match those up. So I'm going to start with the bottom and bring it to the top. And there's texture, or there's depth and things in there, so sometimes it's a little harder to just get them to actually match right up the way you want them. So it looks like I need to come a little bit further to the outside yet, because there's still a dent in where his impression is of his from the bisque itself. So I'm going to bring that out a little more. Match that up with the bottom. Match this top back up. So now I have the same little mark over here, so I'm going to try to touch that up a little more too, just so it's a nice round corner. And I'm just working the tip of the brush into the corner until it gets the area that I want to touch. And I worked it into the corner, and I'm bringing it out to line it up to the top. There. So now that looks pretty good. So now I can just touch up, paint out the rest of him. And the rust usually takes a couple of coats. And we have the white on there, so that adds to it that it might need a third coat even. So we'll let that dry once it's all covered and go to his feet. So that looks pretty good. Now we'll let that dry, and we got to be careful not to get our hand into that part of him. Oh, hi Linda. Oh, I'm glad you enjoy watching. Thank you so much. So now we're going to do his little feet. So now we have to butt this rust up against the white and up against the black. And I'm probably going to start, because I just like to pull it towards me. Again, like this is like the center of that foot, and when you look at it, you don't want that to be off. So I'm going to start just a little past the back of center. So this would be like like from here forward is the front, and that's what you're going to see. So I'm going to start at the back, so that it just lines up, and like the joining part isn't at the top of where you see the very part of the front at first. Because if it doesn't line up, then it's going to be really noticeable. So I'm going to just draw that right along that black line, and then brush this out. And I'm going to start back again a little bit past where I left off. And you kind of got to go slow when you're doing this part. And I'm onto the white now, and I'm going to try to go right to the end there. So now I'm going to brush that out. And mistakes are okay. You can go back and cover them up. There's nothing wrong with that. So now I'm going to turn him. Make sure I don't get my left hand into his wet nose. Anchor this finger on there again. Start right where that foot and where the black and the white meet, where it should be rust, and join these two up. And I want it a little heavier, so I'm going to just do it again. Now I can brush this out. And now we're to the bottom, so we want to do the bottom too. So I'm going to go in there, and now I'm going to start with the front and bring it to the back. Just line it right off. Kind of get a nice line there. And turn your piece so you can see it. Same thing on the back here. We're going to butt it up against the black. Grab some paint. Line it up and bring it to where you came off there. And now we can fill this in. And just brush this out nice. We're just going to brush out our rust on his whole bottom. Like I said, this will probably take 2 or 3 coats. But we'll let it dry in between. So I got the whole bottom touched up there. Now I'll turn it and fill in the area here that we outlined. Now we'll let that dry, and we'll switch over to his other foot. So I'm just kind of holding him on the front and the back. You kind of got to change how you're holding him, whatever works for you. So I'm going to start off just a little bit and then bring it around to the front. And I'm actually turning him instead of my hand on that. So I'm going to go back to where I already had it painted a little bit and then work my way over to the white and the black so it just lines up nice. And there's like a little divot there, so I don't want that white like that. I'm going to try to cover that up. There we go. There. So Melina says, can you buy Doc Holliday at Hobby Lobby or Michael's? No, Melinda, I don't think you can. Melina, I'm sorry. You have to get it probably from a ceramic dealer, a Doc Holliday dealer. You could possibly get it off of eBay or Amazon. I will be putting in an order for Doc Holliday paints and going to the August show so I can pick them up to help save on the shipping and the price. So I hope to be offering more paints on my Brenda's Brushstrokes and Bisque page. If there's something you want and we can get it, not all colors are always available, you can send us a message and we can see what we can do. And even if you're getting like the Bisque box, Courtney's been able to combine the paint and the brushes into the Bisque box and then just charge the shipping that was on the Bisque box because they fit in there and the weight is, it's free shipping that way. It just fits in the Bisque box and it's part of that shipping. Instead of paying shipping on the paint and on the brushes and on the Bisque box, they actually fit in there.
They get free shipping, basically.
So she says you basically get free shipping then when it's combined like that, because they do fit in there. We're working on the August box now, which is called Woodland Animals. I just finished painting them last night and putting their little touches, extra touches on tonight. Courtney will be photographing them and then posting a sneak peek of what they are. And then we created if you have the starter kit, we're going to have an add-on kit of 6 colors that you will need for them. If you want paint, we're going to have it. If we can get it, I'm ordering that paint on Monday, especially for the Bisque boxes. And then it'll also include 6 or 7 colors from the starter kit as well, like the rust and the black and the white. But there's some new colors with the raccoon, the grays, and the fox with some cinnamony colors. So we had to have an add-on box for those colors, if anyone wants to have them available. So I'm just touching this other foot up a little bit, getting him outlined out. And Courtney brought me one of the Woodland Animals. So this is the fox that's part of the next the August Bisque box, which is called Woodland Animals. And this is the little fox. There's a fox, a raccoon, a owl, a smaller squirrel, and then 2 little smaller cardinals. And then there'll be some extra things in the box as well. The big extra in that box is going to be starting August through December. You will be getting a round brush and a flat brush, so that through August, September, October, November, and December, if you're a subscriber, you will have a full set of flat brushes and a full set of round brushes in size 0, 1, 3, 5, 8, and 10. That's kind of the big extra that's in that box, where the July box had the Harold's Easy Scrubber Pad was the extra. So the next 5 boxes will have, their extra will be you'll have a set of brushes by the time you're done. So that's the big thing with those. But there'll be other extras in there too. That's just like the big extra. Oh, Lisa says cute. Thank you. So now I'm going to come back up and touch up his beak again. And I'm just going to he's just resting on the table. And I'm just going to grab some rust And come back and get lined right up to his white, so it's got a nice coat on it. So we tried to put a lot of work and thought into the Bisque boxes, and we've been working on it since last year. You'll also get the Clay Magic flyers with the woodland animals. The Bisque boxes, if you can subscribe, and like if you're a new subscriber, you can go on to Brenda's brushstrokesandbisque.com, and then there's the Bisque boxes on there. If you go to the shop tab, and you add it to your cart and you check out, and we use Square, so it's a secure server. It would take out the payment now, and then after the first one it would take it out on the 1st of the month, and then it will ship on the 5th of the month. And most of our ladies had the June or the July box. We shipped on Friday, and one of them had it on Saturday. All but 2 had theirs on Monday, and then the other 2 had theirs on Tuesday. And I did have a couple local pickups also. So now we're going to let that one dry and go down to his feet, and we're going to just get another coat on there, because I can see where I went over the black with the rust. Rust, reds, and oranges are hard colors. It usually takes more coats of those. It's just a common thing. So again, I'm holding him, but I'm resting him on this finger so I can edge out that foot and keep it nice and straight. And just go slow. There's no rush to it. And brush it out. And again, resting that on there. Start at the bottom. So you can see that's kind of white, and we don't want that white. We want it nice and rusty looking. And you wouldn't have to paint him this color. I mean, you could have the feet more yellow, the beak yellow. Get the bottom. So we want that to look nice too. Brush that out. And you can see the second coat's really covered it really well. I'll probably do one more coat though. So I hope everyone that got the Bisque boxes, I hope you guys enjoyed them. I know we had several comments that the ladies really did love them. They thought it was like Christmas, and thought we did put a lot of work into them and enjoyed it. They enjoyed them, so I hope everyone did. So we're going to come back and get this other foot done. I'm just going to keep lining it out here, brushing it out. Next week we're going to do the tree, and I'll bring that on right before we finish. I was thinking about having you guys do homework, which I think would be a good idea, because then the base coat will be good and dry when it comes to the dry brushing of that piece on Thursday. And if you have a problem, you can message me. So I'm just giving a second coat of the rust on his little feet here, trying to line it up so it looks nice and straight. And he's actually close to done. So now that's wet, so I really can't rest my hand on there, so you can see this other hand is shaking here. So I think what I'm going to do is I need to get him stable. I'm going to rest him on his little hand, and then just draw that paintbrush right along there. And then brush it out. So another thing that I do, and this may seem crazy to people, but when you're breathing, you breathe in and then you breathe out. And when you breathe out, the second that you breathe out, that's a good time to paint straight lines because your body is like at its stillest moment. So like now, if I breathe out, there's like an automatic pause there once you breathe out. So if you try that, notice that you breathe out and then there's like a pause for a few seconds. That's a good time to paint your straight lines. So like I'm painting here, and then like I would breathe out and there would be like that automatic pause. That's when I would come and draw this straight line. But of course I'm talking, so that's not true. But if you try that, that might be a good little tip for you. So just notice your breathing, and when you breathe out, right at the end of when you breathe out, your body has an automatic pause where it's like at its stillest. And I learned that in the Army for target practicing for sharpshooters. That's when you pull the trigger on your gun, because that's when your body's moving the least and you would have your most accurate shot. So I just use that with painting also. So when I'm painting and I need a really straight line at the point where I stop, breathe out, and you have that inactive moment there, that's a good time to paint your little straight lines, especially eyes. I definitely use that for doing eyes. So now I'm just going to get a little more rust on here because we don't want any white or black coming through. And just brush that out. Check the bottom. It looks like Courtney's taking care of everybody there, so that's great. So I'll just keep painting away here while she's doing that. And like I said, let us know if you guys got questions. So I think I did this one already the second time. So we're going to come back up here to his face, because that I can still see white through my rust. So again, I'm resting him on the table, resting this hand on him. That's probably the best painting tips I can give you, is to have it secure. Especially with this little dainty details, excuse me. So again, he's resting on the table, I'm resting this hand on him, and I'm just going to come across the top of his beak. Get a little more paint in there. There's no white. And just nudge it in there real gently and slowly, and you can get right up to where your line was. I'll touch this up a little more here because I can see the white through it. Okay. So I'm going to lay him on his back because his front is wet. I'm going to wash out my brush. And now I have this ugly black on my white. So I'm going to take my little liner, my Real Majestic 5.0 liner, and I'm just going to, almost went into the black. I don't want black, I want white. So I'm going to go into my white. And I just grab some white, and then I'm putting it on my foil, pulling it towards me and turning it so I can get a nice point, so I can get a nice line across there again. And then you want to paint that out, and it's probably going to take a couple coats. So we'll let that dry. And let me see, let that dry. So now we'll go back to his eyes, and I'll just grab, I have another little liner. I'm going to grab some black so we can do his eyes. And I just grabbed the black, and I took a little separate pile, and I'm just going to work it up into the liner because it'll go further that way. And I'm going to get some of that out of there and turn it. As I'm pulling it towards me, I'm turning it clockwise, and that's going to give me a nice point on the end of there so I can do his eyes. And there's a little round indent around his eyes, and that's where I want to go, and try not to get my hand in that rust paint. Resting this hand on here, and this, I'll try to go slow because I know eyes are what everybody has the most trouble with. So I'm just going to start not exactly at the bottom, not exactly at the top, but like at just less than 3/4, maybe 2/3. Push that brush into there and then pull it towards me around his eye, and then brush that out a little bit. Grab a little more. Now I'm just going to go the other way. And again, I'm starting back into the paint and working my way out to the edge so I can line it up. And then draw it around. And it needs to come out a little further, so I'm just going to bring it out a little further. And then I can brush this out. And now I'm going to turn him and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going in my paint, rolling my brush just a little bit clockwise in my 2 fingers to get it to a point as I'm dragging it out of the paint. So again, I'm resting this hand on there. I'm going to start back where I kind of left off, but not right on my white line, and then draw it towards me. And sometimes I have trouble because I have new glasses and they're not as good as my old glasses. So now I can see that there's like a little extra black there. I don't like that, so I'm going to grab some black and go before it and work my way or past it to try to straighten that out. And hopefully we don't make a mess out of it. And if you do, then you got to paint it white and start over. So I still don't like it. So you just keep working at it little by little till you get it rounded out. And you want to have really good light when you're doing this. Now I'm just tipping the tip of my brush in there in my pile so I can get a little more paint on it, but not too much. I can get this worked out the way I want, a nice smooth line. And I still really don't like it, but let's turn him in. So sometimes you have to turn it and look at it. So now I turned him and looked at it, and then I can see there's too much black. There's too much black. It's outside of my line, so I'm going to have to touch that up with some white. But I can also see that my black hasn't gone up far enough onto the white because there's a white area here where the eye ends, so I need to get it to go up a little bit further. So I'm going to go back into that corner and bring it up. And I'm not going to talk so that I can do this. So here we go. There, that's a little better. So now I have that little peaked in the corner, so now I got to get the bottom lined up. So I'm going to do that, and again, I'm not going to talk so I can do my breathing thing and get my line straight. Okay, so that one looks better. We're going to let that one dry and go to the other one. And it's just the same thing. I'm starting like at the 2/3 there. And then I'll paint that out. Grab some black, turn it. No, maybe I'll go back. And I'm just going to go a little further over here and bring it towards me. Okay, so that one went easier because I wasn't talking and I'm drawing my straight lines when my breathing is at that shallow point. So this one I'm actually going to touch up a little bit with the white once that's dry. So I'm going to wash that brush out because I think I'm done with it. I'm going to actually wash out the white one because I don't want it really stiff paint in there. I'm going to grab no, I guess I don't need white. I'm going to grab some of my white, kind of work it in that brush. And I have some water on the tip of the brush, so I want to get that off so it don't run and then it goes everywhere. So I grab my white. I'm going to come back over here, touch this black up again. Grab a little white, brush it out. And let's see if we can fix this corner of this eye, because I'm just not liking it. There, that got rid of that sharp point just about. There. So see, you can go back and fix things. There's nothing wrong with that. Now I can see a little bit of black through that yet, so I'm going to give it one more little coat. So there he is. So now I'm kind of not liking how this orange is up on my white, and I'm going to touch that up a little bit. I just brought it down just that little bit because it looked like it was too high. Okay, so there he is. So now we're on the white. We can probably do his little eyes. So I usually dip my brush into my water, grab some white and put it over here in a little pile. And then I'll grab a little more water. I just dipped the brush into the water and I have some water. And I'm just going to thin that paint out a little bit so it's almost like ink. So now there's a drop of water right at the edge of my brush here, and I'm going to get that off of there, because I don't want that to run onto the eye, because then my white will run all over. So now I'm going to try to work some of that white up into my brush, because then it'll like go further than if you just have it in the tip. So I'm just pulling the brush through it and rolling it clockwise into that point. Then I'll usually take my brush and do one little stroke on the foil to get all the brush out, or all the paint out. And now I'm going to come, and then I dab the very tip in and get just like a little dot on the end, and that's what's going to be my start of my, we're going to do like a half C, and it's going to be thicker at the top, and then it's going to come to a point at the bottom. And this is where I do that when I'm at that no breathing point. So I'm going to do that, so I'm not going to talk for a minute. So that's how you do that. So I pulled it down, and then you lift it up as you get to the end. So now I'm going to go through my paint again, the white paint, rolling it clockwise a little bit, build it up in there, get my little dot on the end. So now this half C is on the right side of the left eye, and you want it on the right side of the right eye also. If you would put it on the left side, he would look cross-eyed. So you want both of them on the right side of the eye. So again, I'm resting my penguin and I'm resting my hand. I'm going to touch the black, push down so it gets a little wider, draw it down, and then slowly lift up so it gets thinner. So now here we go, and I'm not going to talk because I'm going to do it when I'm at that shallow breathing point. So that one I don't quite like as much. It's a little light on the, not as wide on the top. So I'm going to just do it again and get it a little wider at the top. And sometimes you have to do these a couple times to get them the way you want them. So I do like this one better than this one. I'm going to let this one dry, and I'm going to run a little black along there to thin that out. So this guy here, he's pretty good. I'm going to grab a little bit more water to thin this paint out just a little bit more. Work it in there. Twirl it clockwise as you're turning it. Brush a little bit out on the foil. And now I'm going to do a little X over on the left corner of his eye. And we'll do the same. Well, I won't do the other side yet because I want to touch that up. I'm just going to add a little more here. Okay, so that one is looking pretty good. I'm going to take a brush that has a pointed, I have a nice little brush that's got a pointed end on it instead of a big fat end, and I will dip that into the white. Just get a little bit of white, little white point on there, and I'm going to put that at the very tip of that top of that C. So it's like this little, a little highlight. So I'm going to grab a little more and put one on the X, and it doesn't, I usually put it on the bottom, or you can put it on the top. I kind of like it on the bottom, and that's a close area, so I'm actually going to use my liner brush and just get a little bit at the tip, and then just barely touch it. So there we have, that little eye is done. This little eye I don't like, so I'm going to wash out my white paint. And I'm going to go into my black paint, work it in my brush a little bit. I want it thinner at the bottom so it matches this one more. So I'm going to start at the bottom and draw it. I'm going to start before it, draw it towards it so that I can thin that out on the bottom, and then kind of come up my crescent. Maybe just a little thinner. So now it kind of matches the other one more. So I'm going to wash out my brush again. And I'm going to go into the white now. Get a little bit of water and thin this out a little bit again. Work it into the brush. Do that, pull it towards you and rotate it clockwise a little bit. One little draw out so it ain't too thick, and try to do the little X's on the bottom left corner of this eye. There. So I'm going to just get a little, make my little dot at the bottom left again. Wash the brush out, grab my little pointy brush, dip it in my white, and touch the very top of that crescent to match my other crescent, which is kind of his highlight. And you kind of want these the same size, so you kind of go real slow until it gets the size of the first one. So he needs to be a little bigger. And there he is. He's got his little eyeballs now. So now he's pretty much painted out. He's got his eyes and his little everything. So I look at him and make sure he's covered everywhere. I am going to use a little, a size 5, and it could be smaller, it could be a 3 or something too. A dry brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of black and just brush it out a little bit. And I'm just going to, and very little, I'm just going to go across his feet and across his beak. Normally I would have went with some yellow, but to keep the cost down on the paints and needing so many paints, we're just going to do a little bit of black just to give it a little, like he was playing in some dirty snow. But if you have yellow or a lighter orange, you could use that too. A little bit on the bottom, a little bit here on front, and on his sides. Now if you had chalk, you could take a dry brush and put some blue chalk around the outside of his little paws and around the outside where the black and the white meet all the way. You could do that also. And you could use a little bit of pink blush on his cheeks. And that's usually what I do, but because we don't have that as part of this kit, and I don't know if anyone has that, I'm just going to use a drop of cranberry. And I'm going to take a little brush, another little dry brush, And I'm going to dip it in that cranberry and brush it out, get it really dry. I don't know if you can see that, but here we go. Just get it real dry, and we're just going to give him a little bit of a blush on his cheek with the cranberry. Otherwise the chalk works great too. So I'm just going to touch his little cheeks just a little bit, give him little rosy cheeks. Kind of go in a circle, get it kind of even. Well, there you go. So then you would spray him with a sealer. I usually use a matte sealer for my icy, snowy looking stuff. And you spray your, so I would put him on a, when you're trying to seal him, I take another brush or a stick, and or even like a big wooden spoon. I put it up inside there. I take my can of sealer and spray the front, flip him, spray the side, spray the back, spray the side, and then you have, if you have some glitter, you can sprinkle the glitter on his little paws here. That's usually what I do too. Then he would be done. Then you can take the scarf, which is in our package. So there's 3 scarves, one for each of the little figurines, and they're cut to size. If you don't like the color, you can use this as a template. Just go to the fabric store and get some fleece. So when you have your fleece, you can grab it on each end and you pull it, and it's going to naturally curl in. So you can see it's curling in. That would be the side that you put towards your penguin. So I usually take my fleece, pull it just a little bit so it curls in, go about halfway, wrap it around. I bring the front over the top, tuck it under, bring it out, and then he just lines up just the way he's supposed to, and it like curled under each, so you don't have no raw edges and you don't see any of the cutting. And there he is. You have yourself your first little bisque piece. He's all painted and ready to give away or just display. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions. No questions the way it looks. So here he is. I think Courtney has our little name drawings for us. Let's see, what time are we at, Courtney? Does anyone have any questions? What time? 8:20. Oh, we're at 8:20, so we did go over. So there he is. If you have questions, post them on the feed or message me. We can do that. So Courtney put everybody's names that entered on a piece of paper and cut them all up. So the winner and their friend that they tagged is going to get a bisque penguin to paint. So I'm going to shake them up a little more, turn the other way, and grab one. Who do we have? We have Stephanie Mueller and Trisha Pazer. So Stephanie, could you send us a message with both of your addresses, and Courtney will get the 2 penguins in the mail to you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching us. I hope you enjoyed it. It's fun. It's been fun. It's been great to be able to do our first Bisque box painting. Next week we will do the Christmas tree, and Courtney's going to grab the Christmas tree for me. So again, Stephanie Mueller and Trisha Pazer. So Stephanie, if you can message us, we will get your Bisque penguins in the mail to you. So next week we're going to work on the Christmas tree. So if you can take your Lexington green and base coat, just paint like I painted the penguin, just paint it all out, all the way down to where the green and the white starts. And actually stop right there, I told you wrong. Start with the white and paint your white up to where the green would be on the tree, including your bottom. And then you can take your Lexington green and you can paint from the bottom down, and then or the top up, and that way you can edge over the white in case you had white on the green, because that'll be darker. So just paint your bottom white, and then just base coat it white, and then base coat the rest of the tree the Lexington green. And that way, and do it before the show, that way the paint will have a good time to dry. say at least an hour before the show. And then if you're going to paint along, it'll dry brush really quick, and it'll be probably a really quick show next week because the green will go on really quick, and then we'll put the snow on, and I can seal it and then show you how to glue the lights in and do the glitter and stuff. So that's what we'll work on next time. Again, just base coat your white up to where the green tree is, and then do your Lexington green from there up. There are holes where the little pin lights go in. Make sure you get paint in those too. And if you have any questions or problems, just message me and we'll work you through it. So, but we're just going to base coat it just like we did the penguin today. So just brush your paint out real good and do the Lexington green. So that's what we'll work on next week. So, and if anyone wants to order the Bisque box, just message us. We can still ship out a Christmas in July box. We have a couple left yet. So if you're still interested and want to get caught up with us, that's okay too. That'd be great, in fact. So that's all I can think of. We're going to be going mold hunting Saturday and hope to get some more good molds. We're added a few more Bisque pieces to Brenda's Brushstrokes and Bisque.com. We're going to be putting in an order Monday for paint to go in the Bisque boxes. So if you think you want paint as an add-on purchase to the Bisque box for the woodland animals, you can message us and Courtney will get you on the list so we make sure we order enough paint for everyone.
Paint does not come in the box.
The paint is not part of the subscription price. It's an extra cost, but you would get the free shipping because it's coming. We'd be able to put it in the Bisque box for you, so that would help. I think that's all I can think of. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you have a great evening and a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday. And we're going to actually dry brush next week, and we'll be dry brushing the Christmas tree. Thank you. Good night.